I would like to welcome all of you to our March 22nd Learning Collaborative. It is my honor to say that we are the Rural Community Health Worker Network. We meet people where they are at. I'm going to quickly do our reminders, updates, and questions. Our CHW store is live. We do have a lot of new merchandise, and because you guys are on this call, I'll let a little slip out. We are going to have some new merchandise after our annual conference and retreat in April. I will be dropping a bunch of new products into the store. Very excited about it. Our annual conference and retreat is on April 13th through the 15th in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We are doing it in conjunction with Mobile County Health Department. And at this point, we have 62 in attendance. We are still selling tickets. I am open to helping those who need help, giving more information. We have some great speakers from Texas Tech University, speakers from Dartmouth Medicine. We have CHW real life stories. We have some awesome roundtables that are going to be happening. There's also a Narcan training at one of our roundtables that will be happening. We have a lot of local CHWs from Alabama who are involved, as well as those outside. We have some from Southwest Florida as well. Let's see what else we got going on. Our 2023 membership campaign is open. It is $25 for new members and renewals. You can go online and do that. If you refer a colleague or a fellow CHW to our organization, I will send you a surprise if they put in their sign up that they were referred and who referred them. As a reminder, our CHW is always looking to share who we are and how we can partner or collaborate with other CHW organizations and associations, either through education, sharing of the IMCHW story, or partnering with them to do our next annual conference in 2024. I think that covers most of it. Let me see here. I am now going to introduce to you, I am a mentor and motivator. It is Miss Andrea Kratzer-Burton. All of you know her as a CHW trainer with Everyday Life Consulting. She is also a leader with Nashua. I don't know, her list of accomplishments are long and wonderful. She has great lived experience. She is always a joy to have on our calls, and she is also one of our members, and she will also be with me at the conference. So it is all here for you, Miss Andrea.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca. As always, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be here. I really enjoy my time with each of you. This is probably going to be my only webinar that I'll be doing this year, so that makes me a little bit sad. But I do wanted to give a little bit of a background as to in the last year, I have become or I was invited to apply and received the honor, I suppose, to be one of the National Association for Community Health Workers leaderships, CHW leaders. So I am part of the Johnson & Johnson 2023 Dream Grant as one of the leaders. I work closely with Johnson & Johnson as well as Nashua as one of the leaders to help with the Dream Grant. And the Dream Grant is a grant that is a national grant for each of us leaders to put together some programs that we offer community health workers on a national level. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about the grant proposal that I have developed and how this is going to include each and every one of you if you choose to be a part of it. But it'll give you guys the opportunity to, again, be part of the national scene as a community health worker. So the project itself is called the Red Rover Project, and this is really, it's part of empowering CHWs in diversity, equity, and inclusion nationally. Next slide, please. So as you all know, because I think every single person on this call, or the most of you, I have been your CHW instructor. And I work with Everyday Life Consulting in doing the CHW work that I've been doing for the last 6 years. And you know that where we live, work, and play matters because that's all around our social determinants of health and the things that we do with our community and their members and clients on a day-to-day basis, right? So if you could go to the next slide, please. So the Red Rover project really is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's really about being able to provide community health workers the ability to be more diverse, more equitable, and inclusive as CHWs. And we're doing it in a way that is innovative and with a um, education piece, a free education piece offered to all of you should you choose to be a part of this project. And what the Red Rover project really is behind it was the idea that CHWs are, we do the same things nationally all across the country. And believe me when I tell you, it doesn't matter if you're in Genesee County or if you are in Mobile, Alabama, we are doing the work the same. And so back in the day when we were all in elementary school, for those of us that are old enough to remember, Red Rover, where we all stood in a line and locked elbows and invited others to try to run through our elbows to see if they could make it through our locked line, right? That's Red Rover, right? So I thought of it because we need to align better and more collectively across our country as CHWs to really send the message more on a national scale. We do a very good job in our own communities. We do a very good job, some of us, in our own states. But when we think of it nationally, and it really helped reinforce it when, because I am part of the committee of the conference committee. And Becky was saying how, oh yeah, there's a lot of individuals who really want to donate and support us, but only if we do it in Michigan. Well, that right there kind of reinforced what I had already been thinking and what I've already seen on a national level about the division and the divide. And so the purpose of this project is, again, across the CHW workforce, we embrace diversity of background, perspective, culture, and experience. And together with our partners, the Red Rover project will offer the opportunity to CHWs to become community leaders and help community members embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. So basically, it is a training, a 1-day training that's going to be offered to CHWs who are interested in being community champions around diversity, equity, inclusion. And how can we do that on a national scale all the same way and do it together collectively through Johnson & Johnson's recognition? Next slide, please. So although community health workers are not required to complete any DE&I training, especially in every state. CHWs work with diverse populations that face distinct barriers and limitations to living and well-being. To effectively help clients facing diversity and distinct barriers, CHWs must be equipped with diversity, equity, and inclusion and the tools that they need and training to do so. So this is the idea that individuals see the CHWs that are interested would take the training as a train the trainer and be equipped through everyday life to have the toolkits and the necessary educational materials so you too can train your community members. Maybe it's your other CHWs that you supervise. Maybe it's individuals that work at other CBOs that you are affiliated with, but helping them to be um, educated and feel like they have been lifted up in the arena of DE&I. Next slide, please. So what we'll do is we will be training CHW DEI leaders. We will create the DE&I CHW specific toolkit, which we already have done, and host 2 bi-monthly DE&I trainings for a total of 6, but This is really, again, 25 CHWs trained in a year, over the course of the year, to really feel like they are effective as champions and leaders and trainers themselves to go out and be able to train individuals on DE&I. Um, and then, of course, provide you with those pieces of advocacy and mentorship along the way. Next slide, please. So some of the key benefits that we are proposing for each person that's again interested is to make space for unique perspectives by encouraging collaboration and innovation. I think that DE&I is a generalized term for um, everyone, but I believe that it's unique to each one of our experience and our own communities. Because we need to understand diversity, equity, inclusion through a different lens than just the differences between different races, right? Um, and things of that nature. So we're going to really do it through a collaborative nature and through innovative like workshops and interactive learning labs. And then, of course, inclusive thinking and actions, promote community sensitivity, create safe and open space for discussion, and how to be an effective ally. How to take this as a trainer yourself to go out and train and be effective as an ally in the communities that you serve and beyond. Next slide, please. So these are just some different personnel that we would be working with. Of course, you'll be working with myself. You will have access to ask questions to Nashua if you need to. As far as Michaela, she, I believe, was the speaker last month, so you met her. Allison is on their team as well, and she does a lot with the data collection and data dissemination for them. And then, of course, working with the rest of my team as far as we have some DE&I experts. And then, of course, you as CHWs are really a key factor and a key piece to this puzzle to make sure that when we think about having the DE&I, what does that look like for you specifically, and how do you play a vital role in helping communities um, through this development piece? Next slide, please. So did we already do this? Yeah, we already did this. Sorry. So the toolkit's going to provide or is providing once you receive it and once we start working together. It will provide proper phrasing in both an English and a Hispanic version, because we do need to have, different versions out there for different CHWs, whether you're a promotora, a CHW, CHR. And then, of course, we're going to go through there's some practice scenarios that you can provide your community when working with them to educate them and train them on this topic. So you're not creating these materials alone. You're going to be provided with all of the educational materials that you need to be successful as a community trainer or community champion. And then, of course, personal DE&I assessments for folks so you can get a more of a pulse survey, keep abreast of and understand what that looks like from the perspective of the community. How much do they know? How much do they not know? What are they uncomfortable with? What areas do you need a little bit of expansion on? And of course, those resources will be available to you through the Red Rover project. Screening for diverse needs, right? I think we do a really good job as CHWs through our organizations, right, to be able to screen through for specific needs according to our programs or organizations. But how do we really screen for those more diversified needs, or those needs that come with more diverse pieces? And then, of course, growth planning. Like how are you going to grow in this? What's going to be offered to you throughout by being a community champion? And again, you'll get all of this information, and it's really going to be around, some of this stuff will be a little bit unique to each CHW or each individual as far as what do you feel like you need in your growth planning mindset, right? Um, any questions so far? All right. Next slide, please. So some of the topics that are in the current training materials, and w- quite quite possibly there might be a little bit of expansion on some of this stuff, but really the basics around DE&I for CHWs through many different perspectives and lenses. And then, of course, the LGBTQ plus care, the CHWs and the BIPOC care, DE&I for all populations to create equity. Rural and under-resourced populations are a huge part of this because our rural communities are still so disconnected from everything. And then, of course, student presentations will be a part of this, and then those are population specific. And again, this is just to help educate us further on what is that looking like more holistically from even like the state of Michigan or throughout the nation. Next slide, please. So we will do a lot of different interactive lessons through Kahoot, Jamboards, and surveys. Those will all be provided for you. Of course, class discussions regularly. You all know how I run my classroom. Structured Q&A sessions with different groups of individuals, so you're able to have good feedback from real individuals with that lived experience, and of course shared group or group share information and knowledge, one-on-one mentorship, and then you will get, as I stated, those physical materials to be able to do this as a community champion and a community leader effectively. Next slide. So we do have a little bit of an application process, although it's not as strict as what it, maybe states here, but really understanding that we are, that we're hitting the right populations and that we are intentional with the CHWs that really want to do this, right? Because you don't want to be a part of something and then find that you really can't do it, or you don't really have the interest, or the time doesn't permit, or your organization isn't really supporting it. So we really want to make sure that we are targeting CHWs that are serving rural and diverse communities, because it's super important. And it really does depend on how long you've worked as a CHW or what kind of lived experience you've had. Because if a CHW is really quite new and inexperienced, they probably won't have the confidence that it takes to put themselves out there enough to really feel comfortable with that. But that's not to say that that's going to be a full limitation. These are just some um, examples of. And then, of course, why does DEI matter in your work? And how can DEI training better equip you for CHW work? And how do you see yourself as part of this Johnson and Johnson leadership by way of being like a trainer or an advocate around DE&I? Because that's one of the pillars of Johnson and Johnson Corporation, to really bring diversity, equity, inclusion to everyone in all 50 states. So making sure that everyone has that access. Next slide, please. So, of course, there'll be assessments as always, because we do assessments in the work that we do all the time, right? But then it's going to be important for us to understand, like, what do you already know about it, or what do you think you know, right? And then what did you learn, or what are things that um, maybe we can learn together. And then, of course, we'll do pulse surveys regularly to inform mentorship and training and continuing education and what that looks like. And then, of course, we're going to have live interactive role plays based on DEI scenarios, and just really live interactive sessions, and just be a group of individuals that is passionate about seeing the needle move forward in DE&I nationally, and just even like I said, in our community, and just help equipping others based on their misconceptions around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Next slide. Oh, did you
Those are
lose it?
all the slides I have.
Oh, okay. So basically, I want to open it up for individuals who have questions, want to know a little bit more about it, are interested in what is the next steps. Are you interested? If not, no big deal. Really, not a problem. But I want to put it out there to the group first. Becky asked me to speak on the project. And then, of course, the more you get involved, the more information you'll know and find out about it. But
There is a question in the chat right now, Andrea.
I can read my own question. It's from me.
okay.
So Lindsay Schnell is our Enabling Services Manager at MPCA, and DEI has been a big focus of part of what she's been working on. But she no longer has an active CHW certification just because she's not doing the direct outreach anymore. Will that preclude her from applying?
I don't think necessarily it would preclude her. I mean, she has the lived experience. She has the CHW mindset. She has the background. She understands what we do as CHWs. And so it's more so around individuals who are a part of the community and really want to become more equipped in this arena to help really just educate your community and really educate others in the work that they're doing. So I would definitely encourage her to apply or to reach out. And what I'm going to suggest is that anybody interested, maybe just let Becky know you're interested. She could forward me the information and then I can reach out. I think it's just going to be easier that way than any other method, just because you already have regular communication with her.
Perfect, thanks.
And yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question for you, Andrea. This is Corinne. Is the training going to be in person? Is it going to be via Zoom or Teams, or how is that going to happen?
Parts of it will be probably virtual in a Teams type classroom because that's what we do through our organization. But I also think that we're going to probably do some interactive pieces, and that might just depend, more to come on that as far as getting that information um, down the road. But it's going to be important because we're going to want to do some live interactive sessions that are going to require in-person stuff.
So are you looking at those live interactions like on a weekend when most offices aren't open, or are you looking at doing those during the week so people may have to take off work for those?
I would say probably more to come
Okay.
because, again, I think that if done in an effective manner, most organizations we know. And so most of the time, if it's a 1 day thing, we usually can work with most organizations and they're open to giving their employers time to be a part of things like this. So we're happy to support with that as well. That way you're not having to do it because, yeah, probably not a weekend. I like my weekends too much. I don't get very many of them. Any other questions? I see. Yeah, so what you need to do, Allie and Andrea, again, reach out to Rebecca, let her know that you're interested. I will get she will get me the information and then I will then start to forward out things for you to fill out and how you could show your interest and what you need from me as far as getting support from, say, your supervisor or your organization, so that way you can, you feel like you're supported and those types of things. So who's ready for the conference? Dos. I'm ready for the conference. I'm going to be rooming with Sheila. Whoop, whoop.
It should be a good time. I'm excited to see all the new faces that are going to be there. I know there's a lot of people who wish they could go. I will give you guys a heads up. I am offering up to other organizations for the 2024 conference if they want to partner to throw their hat in the ring, and that will depict where we are in 2024. It's up on our website right now that says if you want to partner, let us know. I think that was our best approach for the next coming year. It kind of came out of Mobile County Health Department reaching out to us on this year, which is why we ended up in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And we do have members from there. We have members from all over the continental US, and we even have some members from Kenya. So it is very interesting to see the different faces in different areas. When we hold them in Michigan, we see a lot of Michigan people. When we held it in South Carolina, we've seen a lot of South Carolina, but we did have a good mix of people from all over. And that's what this year is as well. So if there are suggestions for next year's conference, shoot them my way. I'm more than happy to reach out to different organizations and see what happens there. But we are open to suggestion. So Andrea, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
On your Red Rover project. So you're doing that with Michaela, who presented last month. And whatever CHWs apply and qualify to be part of the program. Did I catch all that?
Yep, up to 25. Yep, we're doing 25 in the first 12 months, hoping to be able to reach all 50 states within the second year. So what are some things that each of you wonder or are you uncomfortable about around diversity, equity, and inclusion? Come on. We're not all experts in DE&I. Be honest.
I'll be honest, I am always afraid, I guess you would say, that I am going to ask a wrong question and make someone feel uncomfortable, which is not my intention at all.
Yeah, so how do you effectively communicate, right, with an individual and by asking them questions so that way you don't feel like you're not offending them or you don't feel like it's an uncomfortable conversation? Right. And a lot of people were finding that the language is changing regularly. And the way the way that someone identifies is completely different regularly.
Yes.
And so I was on a call with an individual last week and it was they, their, and theirs or something like that. And I hadn't seen that. And granted, I didn't say, hey, they, right? It wasn't like that. There was a first name, but it got me to thinking the pronouns in themselves need to have like a full toolkit, because if you recognize as someone of the depending on your sexual orientation, but also depending on the species, there's different species of individuals that that people identify with or as. And so when you talk to, say, some of your community members, what is their reaction? Furries, animals, cats, fish, birds, species, not of the human form. Yes, fish, cats, dogs, fish, birds. Katie Saylor. Is that her asking?
Yes, that's me asking.
Yeah.
I haven't
so,
heard about species. I mean, furries. You and I have had that discussion, but fish
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
birds.
Yep. Different
Okay.
species. So, and what do you hear your community members, even if you talk about, let's say, someone that identifies as a furry, what is the community saying about that?
I mean, what do you say about that? Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So
I
how
mean,
do you and how can we become more effective in helping others understand the importance of as to not offend?
right.
And so that's where this whole thing comes to play, because Johnson and Johnson really one of their main pillars for the next 3 years is really having diversity, equity, and inclusion um, broadly shared across our country, so that we're all on the same, close to the same page. And it really is asking using our pro. I'm not sure exactly what that is, Miss Rangel.
Yeah,
I'd need
what
a
I was
little bit
saying
more.
is that using your pronouns in meetings, when you're introducing yourself in an emails, that's that way is creating safe space for others to be open about it. Asking if you don't know, I always ask. And even if I make mistakes, I correct myself and ask again. One thing that, I mean, it's not that it's a huge change, but one thing that I ask in my company is for write a policy about including pronouns on emails. Even when they say is voluntary, just the fact that they have a conversation and it's on the employee handbook, that's in a way to, and some steps to create a more diverse, accepting environment for individuals for all identities and preferences. And I think another thing that is important is whenever we are in spaces where we have discussions about data collection, or creating resources for our communities, bring that up so they can be thinking about those things and being inclusive. I know that until recently they were not nationally collecting information about, like at least in health centers, they were not collecting information about other genders than female and male. And now that changed, but it's because people have been having conversations about those things. So I think it starts with every small little things that you can do, and then micro, right? And then micro, and then you can definitely do some advocacy efforts on the macro level in organizations, government, cities, etc. That's
Well, and one thing in the diversity, equity, and inclusion arena is you have to be willing to be mindful and be open enough to accept the answer to the question that you ask. You can't just have this preconceived notion that you're going to ask a question because you're doing it in a way to show kindness and like you are open and want to know. But then when they give you the answer, what do you suppose are, for some individuals, their facial expressions or body language? How does that change according to the reaction to react to their answer? And that really is happening. I was in Florida a couple of weeks ago, and we did a whole DE&I thing. Well, in the state of Florida, they have laws that their governor put in place around individuals and talking about things in the diversity, equity, and inclusion arena. Like, you can be arrested in that state. So you have to be very, very careful how you word, how you ask, and also your reactions. And so
I've done the same thing, Allie.
yeah, I was gonna say I've done some similar things too, right? Um, so again, it, back, I would say, 15, 20 years ago, when you made a mistake like that, people didn't make as big of a deal out of it. You weren't made to feel like you had just chopped someone's hand off. But today, things are changing so rapidly all the time that and everyone's own perspective of this topic is their reality. So individuals who use pronouns in a certain way, it means one thing, but then other individuals use pronouns for some, a different way, it means something completely different. So again, we have to be comfortable, but we have to also be comfortable with whatever the answer is, and we have to be open to it, and because it's not going away. It's just forever changing and becoming more and more and more part of our communities and in the day-to-day work that we're doing as community health workers. Ashley, you had maybe a comment or a story you could share.
I do. So anybody who knows me knows that I like to give compliments as much as I can, especially women to women compliments and then women to men because it's just not a common practice. And a habit that I've gotten into is if I was going to talk to Andrea and we happened to be in the same room when I needed her attention, it would be, hey, beautiful, can you help me with this? Or one of my male coworkers, hey, handsome, can you help me with this? And we have some queer employees at MPCA. And the person that I was talking to was very okay to sit down and have this conversation. But I said, so what kind of a compliment or phrase can I use that isn't directed towards a male-female type phrasing? And that actually led to a conversation, and I now have them pinned in a couple different places so that I have those. I think my favorite one so far is "Hey, stunning." It just is something that doesn't fall to just those male females, which is not something that I do a lot of, but I'm trying to be more aware of it. So that's something that I've had to work to change and incorporate. I still catch myself with "Hey, beautiful" and "Hey, handsome" all the time with my queer counterparts, but I'm trying to make an effort.
Thank you. I think we lost Andrea. Oh no, there she is.
No, I'm here. So I put a comment in the scale, a scale in the, I put a question in the comments. I'd like each of you to comment if you would, because I think it's important. And like I said, it's Ruby, you have a question.
Yes, I have a question. Like, it's not so much of like pronouns and stuff, but like in our area, we're in a rural area, and we're in the outskirts of Mobile County, Alabama, and we have a very diverse Asian population. So a lot of them don't speak English, and there are many, like you have Laos and you have Vietnamese and Cambodian. So you have all of these different ethnicities of Asian population, and it's hard to communicate with them when you don't have a translator. And then if you had a translator, you would need so many different translators because you have so many different ethnicities, and and they get upset whenever you call them the wrong ethnicity. So I mean, understandably, that's misrepresenting them, and but that's the problem that we have. We had a food drive last week, and on our food drives, we have to fill out it's like a sign-in sheet, and it has some questions for Feeding the Gulf Coast, which is our sponsor, and it has like questions of how many people of 60 years old and under are in the house. I mean, 60 years old and older are in the house. How many under 18? They're wanting to know the age groups of the people that you're collecting food for. So we have a problem translating that information to them to have the paperwork filled out correctly in order to get them represented as far as needing food services. So that's where we're having problems with.
Part of diversity, equity, inclusion is really doing your homework around what that culture looks like. So what does the culture look like from just that perspective? Asian culture, African American culture, Caucasian culture, whatever, right? What does that look like from those different perspectives in general? And then honing in on something that you could maybe pull in to relate to, and then trying to relate that way, right? By asking questions about a specific holiday or a specific time of year that they might celebrate, right? Trying to have those icebreakers that you can utilize in different groups. But what people narrow DE&I to is religion, race, ethnic background, and those types of things. But really it's difference between even generations, right? But also we have to do a very good job from an ethical perspective to even speak on behalf of our own ethnicity or our own um, background. Because I did training in person a few years ago, and there was a group of different individuals who didn't share my same ethnic background. They came in expecting that they were going to get noosed, roped, drugged behind a vehicle, beat up, shot to death, all these things. And so I had to do a good job to say that's discrimination, right? That's discrimination about my rural community and what you think just by what you've seen. Like what you're seeing as far as like isolation from big businesses and skyscrapers and what have you. And maybe you don't see other people with the same color of skin or the same whatever, right? So you shouldn't hold those types of ideologies around my community when in fact that's really not the case, right? So we have to do a good job about having those reciprocal pieces as well, right? Understanding and being open to other cultures and different diversities, but that we also have to be able to speak on behalf of our own when it comes to those pieces. Because I obviously want to comfort individuals, but I also want to make sure that they understand that that's not fair to me either, right? It's not always about the minority per se. It's just about the differences. And how do we celebrate the differences and come together on the same page? And it really is around understanding, having a few little pieces that you can talk about. Even when I come to Mobile, as a matter of fact, Ruby, I will be in Mobile on August 10th. I fly into Pensacola and drive in, and I'll be there for 3 days. But when I'm in Mobile, right? Um, I don't know the Mobile culture. I don't know your culture. I don't know the difference from like a southern state to say the northern state. I had someone call me a Yankee when I was there, which to me, yeah, it didn't really bother me, whatever, but it's still rude because just because I have a different accent than you, and you can clearly tell that I'm as white as a ghost, right? And I live, obviously, am coming from a northern state. Is that fair to call me a Yankee and then put all of those preconceived notions around what a Yankee is around me? You don't know me, right? All of those things matter. So I think just understanding more of the Chinese culture, what do they celebrate, trying to find something that you can like relate to and breaking the ice that way. And then of course, yes, having a good interpreter matters because I think that's one of the barriers that your community and your organization, you know, also is putting in front of you, because that really is a disservice to not only you but to them, because you could go a lot further with them by having a proper interpretation. Oh, somebody else. Was there a question, a comment? Ashley, that's interesting as well. Computer interpretation, I guess, if that's something that works. I don't know. I've never personally been in a specific situation where I've had to use an interpreter ever, or even a signer. So I really don't know what that looks like. I'm not the expert in that arena. Any other questions or comments, I guess? Becky, take it away.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for attending this month's Learning Collaborative. I am going to tell you our next month's Learning Collaborative is going to be a little different. It does not necessarily have a set topic at this time. We are kind of doing it as the preface of Coffee with Friends. We'll talk about what happened at the conference. We'll talk about things that went on, feedback. Really, it is going to be more of a self-care type learning collaborative. Bring me your weekly woes and your candidness, and that's what April will probably most likely look like. Just because there is so much already going on in April, with me going to be down in Gulf Shores and getting things going with the conference, it's going to kind of be our round about wind down. I'm very excited to have everybody be a part of our learning collaboratives. We are always looking for suggestions, ideas on different topics, different speakers. I love that you all get involved and all feel the need to support one another. And that is one of the greatest things about our members. We have great camaraderie. I am going to say again, thank you, Ms. Andrea Kratzer Burton, for being a part of this, for sharing DE&I. And once again, Miss Rita Golden, please don't feel as if because you are retiring next week, you cannot still join us in all of our candid fun.
I will try.
Yes.
If there is anything any of you need between now and whenever, please feel free to reach out to me. If you need resources, if you're looking for people, if you're looking for networking, I am more than happy to put you in contact with people that I know who can give you guidance, support, and insight. I thank you all again very much for being a part of RCHWN. I look forward to seeing those of you in Alabama, and those of you that won't be there, I look forward to meeting you in person very, very soon. If there is nothing else, I will stop recording. You're more than welcome to stay and have candid conversation. But at this time, I will stop the recording.
I just want to say congratulations